So we're basically getting the full roster of everyone that's going to be participating in the Battle Royale. I think there's only a few mystery characters, ones that we don't actually see their faces. But even then, I can guess specifically to Dodo and Chopstick Johnny. I can guess that those guys, even though we don't see their faces, they're consecutors, because the consecutors have straightforward weird names because they didn't really have parents. Yan probably didn't give a damn enough to name them, and so did Shen Wulong. He just probably didn't care enough. But let's actually break down the chapter, because I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, because we start off with the fighters that have gathered up to basically rehear the rules again. We see from one location Katihara is explaining it to the Kengan team, let's say, or the Kengan and Purgatory team, although technically their Purgatory is under the Kengan Association, so it is just the Kengan team. We get a refresh of the rules basically. So what's happening with the zones, the violations, which include now of course the breaking of the coin and the throwing of the coin away, which will result in a direct disqualification. So there's a little addendum there, but overall the rules seem the same. In fact, Oma kind of like points this out. He's like, yeah, these are kind of the rules we already knew. This is probably common sense as well. Rito, he isn't the common sense guy, so he barely listened to the rules in the first place. But Sekabayashi is a little bit more suspicious of what the Kengan Association is doing. He's probably been with the Kengan Association for a longer time, so probably more of a insight that Seki has because he's worked with the Kengan Association for a longer time. And he says that actually there's little reason they would actually give us a recap of the rules. We heard them before. Everything we know here, we've literally seen it. And so Seki's like, there's going to be something here that we don't see coming. There's gonna be a reason why they are retelling us these rules. And at first I thought that maybe they're retelling this rule because there might be some people there that had not heard the rules beforehand. So I'm guessing if Lohan is in the crowd in some form of a disguise or some shit, he might need to hear the rules or something, but then the Kengan Association would kind of have to know. Then again, yeah, they would have to know regardless if the person's gonna participate. But then as the conversation is still happening, Katihara then starts with the additional rule set. So this is a surprise rule set, one that they probably knew from the very beginning, but wanted to keep it as lock and key and only reveal it on the day, so that probably there wasn't too much prep time for this strategy. Because now there is a life point system, and when we have that revealed, we transition over to Shen Wulong and the worm, and they're kept in a separate area on the island as well, and they're listening to the rules and the additional rules. Shen Wulong is like life point, and he's saying it in Japanese, and you have Fuzan and the worm members there. Fuzan's like, hey, he pronounced it nicely. Everyone clap, right? They're gonna congratulate the connector. I find this very funny because we do know Shen Wulong is somewhat conscious about how he says something, specifically with Japanese it seems, but it could be a lot of other languages that he wants to be fluent in, because when Zaiji met him in Japan, there was a moment where he didn't respond to his Japanese and he seemed to get a little bit annoyed, a little bit of aggression shot through, and Zaiji sort of had that moment of feeling like he's being cut up, which to Shen Wulong was probably not even that big of a deal in terms of aggression, but for Zaiji, who could feel the aggression, it was a lot. But yeah, you have Fuzan here. He's telling the minions, the squad, to clap away, and some of them are clapping as well. But Shen Wulong wants clarification for the life point rule, because he's like, I thought you can't kill anyone here. And Shen Wulong, in the area that they're in, because Katihara is talking to the Kengan Association fighters, Sheena is talking to the worm, and Sheena starts clarifying what the life system actually is and what it does. And it's actually quite simple, and that is the fact that all the fighters participating in the battle will have a point. So they have one life point attached to them. If a fighter is disqualified or their watch breaks, the one where they're going to be tracking the coin as well as, of course, keeping them inside the battle, if that happens, not only are they disqualified, they'll lose their life point, and that life point will transfer over to the person responsible for eliminating them. Now, this actually makes it such that what Yan and Fuzan did was actually the best possible move, because they weren't fully aware that this was actually happening, because, you know, Shen Wulong wasn't. Because I had the thoughts that why don't they just put as many members of the worm in the actual battle itself, even if they're fodder, right? They'll have the numbers game. However, with the point system, that actually changes. It becomes disadvantageous to actually have a lot of fodder on your side or too many fighters, and I suspect the worm might actually end up having an advantage because of that. But the reason the life point system even exists is just in case the coin ends up getting destroyed or something like that. So it seems like they don't plan to like stop the match entirely when the coin was destroyed, just like the plan was originally. Now the life point system will ensure the game goes on, because like having 5 points will be equivalent to holding the coin for an hour. So it's basically an alternative route to the coin. But Shen Wulong then asks a question, and he's like, okay, so 5 points equal an hour, but what happens if a fighter eliminates so many fighters that it eclipses the time allotted for the battle, because this is only going on for 12 hours. So basically, if you were to you have to basically take out a minimum of 60 people to meet that time, right, of 12 hours. Shen Wulong is asking what happens if you go beyond that, and that's a very valid question for him to ask, because he's more likely to take out a lot of people. Sheena, she answers that by saying, well, this only depends on whether or not the coin is there or not. If the coin is out of bounds or destroyed, the life point holder is the one who ends up winning with the most amount of points. But if the coin is involved, so yeah, the life point system is there in case something happens to the coin, which basically means there are 2 ways of obviously winning, and Yan says that they've basically thought this out. We then see Nicholas, the real Nicholas. You know, he's there, he's like, oh yeah, he's had enough, he wants to go straight to the action like most of us do. And while Sheena's explaining that, you know, the rest of the rules, she is actually seeing Nicholas and the real Nicholas, and he's like, that kind of looks like the Nicholas that she knows, the one from Purgatory. But with that, we then see Gilbert Wu is one of the people participating, which pretty much confirms Ryan here. Now, I did record a video that was going over my predictions for this Battle Royale, and I did talk about Gilbert and Ryan. I knew Ryan and Gilbert were probably going to be here because before this chapter, Gilbert, or Ryan specifically, had a character design for this arc, and so that logically made sense. The issue here is that Gilbert is probably gonna get disqualified at some point, because he's here to literally kill Ryan. Like, that's gonna be his goal. So you can't actually kill someone in this tournament, I don't think so. But we then transition over to the Kengan Association team, with Gao Lang actually saying that this life point system might actually end up being useful because it provides an alternate route to defeating the connector. Of course, Haru as well is like, yeah, that is actually true. In fact, you don't even have to fight Shen Wulong, you could literally go after his wristwatch or his monitor, and yeah, Bob's your uncle. But then as Haru is actually, you know, saying, yeah, actually you can do all this stuff, Okubo's like, hey, wait a minute, bro. Who the hell are you? Because they don't realize it's Haru yet. And he's like, have we met before? Like, how are you out here joining conversations from like random strangers like that? And of course Haro, he's like, hey guys, it's me. He takes off the glasses. He's like, I did a little workout, bro, like it is what it is. Seki and Okubo, they're flabbergasted by this. They're like, wait a minute. Okubo's like, this isn't a little bit of training, this is straight up reincarnation, like you ain't even the same guy. Which is true. Prime Haro looks like he's going to be a menace in this tournament. But as that is happening, we see Oma, he's sort of looking at them, he sort of notices Haro, Okubo, and Seki talking and stuff, but then he also noticed someone else that comes up, and it is Akoya. He says he knew of course that Akoya would be here, and we're basically done with reception, and now we have the full roster that is being shown off here. Now, I won't go over exactly everyone here. I'll just go over some people that I find interesting. I'll save another video for the roster and what I expect from them. But yeah, it's good to see Mutemba is around, even though I think he's gonna be trash because he's literally been trash for most of Kengan Omega. We have Ray, although he did have a character design as well before this chapter, confirming that he was here. He is now confirmed in the tournament. Hatsumi as well. I know some people, we did see Hatsumi from like, you know, the back of his head in some areas. So he is now confirmed as well, which is pretty nice to see that, yeah, he's actually in the tournament. He'll probably have a fight here and there. I do think now it might be a good time for Hatsumi to shine as a character, because the only other fight he's had was against Canada, and yeah, he ended up winning that one, of course. And Retsudo is here as well, which I think is very interesting, as well as Misasa, which I think is pretty good to see that Misasa is here as well. We then see the connector clique, which we only have Shen Wulong, Yan, Fuzan, and Gilbert kind of confirmed. Then we have Dodo and of course Johnny Chopsticks, which, as I've said, I think they're consecutors. The names are way too on the nose for them to be like, you know, a random character, because we know the consecutors pick very plain names because, you know, they probably are naming themselves at this point. The interesting thing here is we have, from that point on, from number 1 to 7, which are basically all mystery characters. 2 of them I think are likely to be Lohan and Nico, because literally they had build up last in the previous arc for the training of this arc. So I expect them to be there. The rest are going to probably be direct subordinates, the elite of the worm, and probably 1 or 2 guests here and there. But yeah, we see Metsudo there, old man Metsudo. He's standing with Nogi and Toyoda, and he's basically saying, alright connector, game on, it's now time to do our thing. And yeah, that's it. That is the chapter. At this point, we'll see what happens next chapter. The actual battle should start next chapter. I doubt we'll have any more build up or rule clarification. The most we'll get is a new character, but we just got the roster as well. So things should truly kick off for the actual battle next chapter. But yeah, that is the video. Don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.